Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Clackamas County Board of Commissioners issues and updates on this May 31st, the last day of May, 2023. Administrator Gary Schmidt, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair Smith. Would you please convene as the Housing Authority of Clackamas County?
I will recess as the Board of County Commissioners and convene as the Housing Authority of Clackamas County.
Housing Commissioner Ann Leinster is not here today. She's not able to join, so it's just the 5 commissioners. This is request for consent agenda for the Housing Authority. Item 1, approval to apply for an additional Housing Choice voucher grant funding to add to the ongoing annual funding for rent assistance and program operations. Anticipated grant value is $695,879. Funding is through the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. No county general funds are involved. Tony Carter and Rod Cook from Health, Housing, Human Services and the Housing Authority. Go ahead.
Thank you. Every year, once a year, they keep a pool of reserve funds for emergencies for any particular housing authority. When they don't use that reserve, they open it up to all housing authorities to apply for those funds if they meet certain criteria. It's always in the best interest of a housing authority if they meet any or come close to meeting any of those criteria to apply for the funds and hope you get awarded. Last year was the first time we ever got awarded, and we got $695,000, so it was definitely worth the application. The money is used for rent assistance. It is to shore up our books and to be able to help more people. What we always seem to show is that we are given an X number of vouchers to serve, which is the number of families we can serve, but because our funding is so low, we never serve that full number of vouchers because the market rents are so high. So if you keep asking for the money, the more families you can serve. Any questions?
Questions or comments? Seeing no objections.
Item 2, adoption of a board order approving delegation of signing authority for sewer line easement and related documents for 18980 Leland Road in Oregon City. No fiscal impact, no county general funds are involved.
Good morning, Chair Smith, Commissioners. Adam Brown, Deputy Director, Health, Housing, and Human Services. So we're seeking your approval of a delegation of signing authority for a sewer line easement and related documents. This relates to a residential sewer line that needed to be relocated with the reconfiguration of a sewer main line as part of the courthouse construction project. The Housing Authority of Clackamas County owns a single-family residence at 18980 Leland Road, known as the Leland House, which is located just right here on the western boundary of our Red Soils campus. The Leland House was acquired by HAC in 1989. It is currently leased to Cascadia Behavioral Health and operates as a group home for developmentally disabled adults. On March 29th, 2023, contractors working on the courthouse replacement project worked to decommission a segment of main sewer line that is being reconfigured as part of the courthouse construction. The contractor expected the flow of sewage to stop at a certain point during the work, but realized that there were unknown lateral connections to the line from adjacent homes, including the Leland House, when that did not happen. Staff from Facilities and Health, Housing, and Human Services have been working together and with the City of Oregon City to determine the best approach to replacing the Leland House's sewer line. Various options have been considered, including redirecting the line west to the main line on Leland Road or reconnecting the reconfigured main line on county property. Reconnecting to the reconfigured line on county property turned out to be the most feasible and least expensive option due to the complexities of taking the line west to Leland Road. The cost of going west was estimated to be over $100,000 versus under $40,000 to reconnect on the county side. Work is expected to be completed by the end of the week. In fact, there's an inspection scheduled for 1 o'clock today. And once the work is completed, we'll be able to finalize the site description for the easement that's needed between the housing authority and the county due to the line being on county property. So this delegation of signing authority will allow the chair to sign that easement and any other related documents.
Questions or comments?
As far as the other properties, are they picking up their share, or is this being solely borne by us?
So the cost of the sewer line replacement is actually being covered by HAC for the Leland House, and I'd have to defer to county facilities on how this is being dealt with for the other properties.
Right, because technically, you can't have multiple properties on one line, right? They have to they all have to connect into the lateral out on the street. They
Yeah,
can't
so
be, they can't be adjoining.
I can connect with Jeff Jorgensen in County Facilities. He's who we've been working with on the Leland House specifically, and I haven't been part of the discussions about the other homes, but we'll follow up with you, Commissioner, and get you a response about how those are being handled.
All right, thank you.
Seeing no objections, thank you.
Chair, would you please convene as the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District?
I will recess as the Housing Authority of Clackamas County and convene as the North Clackamas County Parks and Recreation District.
These are requests for consent agenda for the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District. Item 1, approval of an amendment to a contract with Learning Landscapes to continue planning and design services for the play area at the Concord property. The amendment value is $82,497. Total contract value is increased to $181,977. Funding is through district capital asset funds. No county general funds are involved. Mike Bork, Director of North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District. Go ahead.
Thank you. The only thing I was going to add on to the very descriptive title was the reason for this amendment was when we originally went under contract with this consultant to do the playground design, we had only identified one revenue stream, and that's what we were calling the Phase 1. That's the Metro Local share that we had talked about. Once we entered into the contract and identified the local government grant program, the lottery proceeds grant that we're applying for, we need to increase the contract to allow them to do the design for that. So that's what this amendment is for, if anybody has any questions.
Questions or comments?
Yeah, I just want to clarify that the scope hasn't changed,
No.
just the funding streams.
Just the funding, yes.
Seeing no objections, thank you.
Item 2, approval of an amendment to an intergovernmental agreement with Clackamas Community College for community-based instructional programs. The amendment value is $15,068 for 1 year. Total agreement value is increased to $53,398 for 4 years. Funding is through Clackamas Community College. No county general funds are involved.
And on this one, just Clackamas Community College pays us at the aquatic park for providing and reporting adult fitness programs, and so this is that contract.
Love this one, too. Any questions or comments? Seeing no objections.
Item 3, approval of an amendment to an intergovernmental agreement with Clackamas Community College for educational and enrichment services. The amendment value is $45,780 for 1 year. Agreement value is increased to $159,756.50 for 4 years. Funding is through user fees and budgeted district general funds. No county general funds are involved.
And for this one, again, this is with Clackamas Community College. They hire and provide instructors for our Milwaukee Community Center and some of our new Concord programs for adult and senior fitness programming and general programming. And NCPRD, we pay for half of the instructor costs for 62 and over. So this is just an amendment that kind of lays out the new amounts. Basically, the costs have gone up, but it's the same services.
Questions or comments? Seeing no objections. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Chair, would you please convene as the Clackamas County Development Agency?
I will recess as the North Clackamas County Parks and Recreation District and convene as the Clackamas County Development Agency.
This is request for consent agenda for the Clackamas County Development Agency. Item 1, approval of a public improvement contract with Elder Demo for the demolition of the former Miles Fiberglass building. Total contract value is $265,893. Funding is through the Clackamas County Development Agency via the Clackamas Town Center Urban Renewal Plan area. No county general funds are involved. Dan Johnson, Director of Transportation and Development. Go ahead.
Thank you. Chair Smith, Commissioners, the Development Agency owns property located at 8855 Southeast Audie Road that was formerly occupied by Miles Fiberglass. This site houses a building of approximately 50,000 square feet, which has been vacated for a number of years. It was basically vacated while we were in there building on-site infrastructure improvements near that Fuller Road station that you all visited during the grand opening. Basically, the building is aged, is in poor condition, is in a very high state of disrepair due to various acts of vandalism. Due to the current state of the building, it's basically become a safety hazard, and the agency has determined it is necessary to have the building demolished. We advertise this in accordance with ORS and LCRB rules. On December 7th, 2022, through an invitation to bid, bids are publicly opened March 7th, 2023. The county received 10 bids. After review of the bids, Elder Demo LLC was determined to have submitted the lowest responsive bidder at the dollar amount identified by the county administrator. I will tell you, the building itself, there were some thoughts about the retention. The building itself has been set ablaze a number of times. We've been working actively with facilities and the fire district on this site to secure it. We have put fences up. That has not deterred vandalism on the site. We have had incidents of individuals actually going and taking off the nuts and bolts on high-pressure water lines and flooding the building. And so it has come to the point, and we have had some interest in the site. That interest really hasn't materialized in an offer coming forward to the board yet for redevelopment because of the concerns about the building that's there currently and the liability it poses for anybody who might wish to buy it. Beyond that, I'd be happy to answer any more questions you might have.
Dan, how many acres is this
I knew
site?
you were going to ask me that. I was just looking that up in the back. I want to say it's like two and a half, something like that, 3. I can confirm that and get back to you, though.
Yeah, that'd be fine. Commissioner West?
Would we have this building still as a potential asset if there wasn't criminal behavior, vandalism, and destruction done to the property?
In its current state, no. I think it'd be difficult.
You think it would still need to be demolished even if we didn't have to deal with the criminal activity within inside it?
I don't know that to be the case. I mean, I think that we would probably look and would recommend demolition for highest and best use, because there's probably, for example, because again, the fundamental purpose of our urban renewal programs in the Clackamas County is the creation of assessed value and the creation of value that goes to the overlapping taxing districts and pays them back. I wouldn't say the use that's there currently is the highest and best use. There may have been a fit for something. In fact, Commissioner Sabas and I have talked a number of times about, these kind of middle of the road kind of size properties that have area for laydown yards, things like that. And there is a value for that, but I do believe the vandalism had a detrimental effect on the ability to use the building now and in the future.
I do agree with that. When I was in my first week or two as a commissioner, I might have tweeted about this property in D Street over there and about what was happening. I think it was an attractive nuisance to those that don't want to necessarily abide by the rule of law and aren't really invested in keeping vibrant, clean spaces in Clackamas County. And so it was a victim of that kind of criminal behavior. I think this is a super unique property with a lot of potential, also with where it's located. I think even maybe the county can find a unique purpose for it potentially. So I do support your ask to demo it. I think it's in the well-being not just of the county, but specifically the new residents over in the Fuller Station to not have that attractive nuisance where things are being set on fire, illegal camping, and Lord knows what other activities could be happening in there are no longer able to happen with no property there. So yeah, thank you for bringing this forward.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Scholl?
Dan, I drove by the building yesterday. I'm very happy that it's going to come down. If you can do it for $265K, that's good. But when they take it down through the foundations, down through the footings, how are they going to leave the site? They're going to leave it gravel, they're going to leave it graded? What are we going to have? And also, are they going to demo the sewer lateral, and what underground elements are they going to take out?
I don't believe the contract, I can go back and verify for your, just for clarity, I don't believe the contract has any utility, it probably has utility cutoff associated with it, but does not terminate, and simply terminates it. And you hit on a very important point in regards to the demolition, because one of the concerns was, what do you do, how do you reduce the cost? Because actually, we were actually happy with the bid that came in. We thought it was probably going to be more, but this particular proposer includes like grinding up of the foundation and things on site and making it a gravel site afterwards and laying that out and equalizing it and leveling it out, which basically reduced their costs for hauling that material off, et cetera. So, and we've agreed to that in the contract before you today.
Good. So at the end, you're going to have a property that might be attractive to a new developer.
That is the direction we'd like to head.
Good.
Yep.
Thank you.
Seeing no objections, thank you.
Chair, would you please convene as the Board of County Commissioners?
I will recess as a development agency and convene as the Board of County Commissioners.
You will meet as the Board of County Commissioners for the rest of this meeting. Next, request for consent agenda for the regular county agenda. First up, elected officials. Under Board of County Commissioners, item 1, approval of a Clackamas Workforce Partnership certification request for the Office of Workforce Investments within the Office of the Higher Education Coordinating Commission to comply with the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. No fiscal impact, no county general funds are involved. Who's presenting this? No one. All right. So this is Commissioner Schrader, perhaps you can answer this. This is a pro forma. We do it every year. Clackamas Workforce Partnership is the official federal workforce component, which we as the county has delegated to them. You have to sign this form once a year. We're just asking you to sign it. That's basically the update. You want to add anything, Commissioner Schrader?
It is pretty pro forma. It is for our workforce board. It's required by the WIOA, Workforce Investment and Opportunity Act, that a public official serve ex officio on a board. I am that official, have been doing that for many, many years, but it is the chair is the chief elected official who will be signing the document on this, and there's no reason not to. They're meeting all of their federal requirements at this point, which is the crux of the matter as to why they have an official on board, just to have that level of oversight, make sure they're meeting those federal benchmarks. So is that enough?
That sounds fine to
everybody?
me.
Okay, it's not a, yeah.
Any further questions on this? See no objections.
Okay,
Thank you.
very good. Item 2, staff is asked to pull it, and we'll bring it back next week, so that's off the agenda. Next, county administration, item 1, approval of a change order number 3 with Clackamas Progress Partners for the Clackamas County Circuit Courthouse Replacement Project. Change order is a decrease of $771,773 for a decrease in the project agreement value to $619,224,227. Funding is through reduction in project agreement amount. Nancy Bush, County Operating Officer, go ahead, please.
Thank you. So this is our first change order that we have had brought before the commissioners. This change order is a decrease for a couple things that we have. One of them is the glazed CMU removal, which is removing the current glaze or wall finishing in the glaze inside the holding cells with a standard concrete masonry unit with epoxy and paint, which is less expensive to keep up and is also just as effective. The other one is for replacing copper and aluminum feeders. So we are removing the current copper feeders for application of 100 amp and over, and then replacing that with aluminum, which is now a industry standard. So that's why we're seeing these decreases. The decreases will stay in the project because there are other things that come up, of course, that we have to pay for that we didn't know we had to pay for. And this impacts the entire contract, which includes not only the construction, but also all of the maintenance and everything that we have in this agreement over the next 30 years.
Commissioner Shaw.
When you start showing us change orders on the courthouse project, it concerns me. Now, this is a reduction, but it was my understanding that the fixed price of the courthouse project was not going to be subject to change orders.
So it's not, what we said, from what I remember, because I was kind of watching from the background at the time, is that there would not be an increase in cost. There could be a decrease for these types of reasons.
Okay, okay.
But-
I just want to make sure that
Yes, sir.
that
And-
as we go forward, in the fog of battle, we don't lose track of the fact that we have a set price on the courthouse and we don't have one penny more to pay for it.
So I could say almost daily to them, when we talk about change orders and things that might come up, do we have the money for that? I say it almost daily.
Oh, good. Thank you very much for doing that.
Thank you, Nancy, for being
Yeah.
project manager on this and
Yes.
keeping up with
You're
that.
welcome. Thank you.
Commissioner West.
Nancy, you're doing great work on this, and thanks for being a watchdog for county resources. My question might have just got answered, that we like decreases, we like savings, but these are industry. Is this a change in industry standards? Is this a new best practice? Like, do we like these products better? Do they last longer? Like, just a little bit like, it's just,
Sure.
Within a short period of time, it seems like this is a significant change.
It is a significant change, but right now we're doing all the design piece, which is where you're going to see these types of things coming up. The glaze itself We have found, and actually, we worked with the sheriff's office as well as checked to see if what we're switching out is actually just as good, and we have found that it is.
Okay.
And it is less expensive, not only to apply it, but also to maintain it. So the copper and the aluminum feeders is actually a change in industry.
What is a
state.
feeder? Just for those, like, I'm getting like the rabbit vibes from the rabbit cage, and there's like little water feeder. Like, I don't know if that's, like, I don't understand what a
I can
feeder
get
is.
that information to you. I know it's electrical, and
Okay.
Commissioner Scholl, do you know?
She's talking about the large electrical conduits that come into the building.
Okay, okay,
Thank you, Commissioner.
cool. So those are now aluminum instead of the more
copper.
expensive copper.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
Okay.
thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing no objections.
So I want to comment, Commissioner Schell and Commissioners, you're right. When you approved this, it was that the price was locked in for the construction, and that's our expectation.
Yes.
And we're holding firm to that, and Nancy is the watchdog to make sure that happens.
Yes.
Nancy, I have a question, forgive me, Commissioners. Why is the amount $619 million?
Because that is the entire agreement, which includes all of the maintenance for 30 years and running of the building over the 30 years, including, and it also includes our construction cost.
So it's higher than just,
Interest payments?
I could,
there's
Elizabeth?
no interest because we're doing a cash payment every year.
Yeah.
So it's all inclusive?
But we sold bonds.
Elizabeth, come on up, please. Let's answer this now. Elizabeth Comfort, Finance Director.
Good morning, Elizabeth Comfort, Finance Director. So the county did not take out debt. Our partners, PCL, they took out debt with a bank in Montreal, Canada, and so we do have a fixed capital cost over the next 30 years. And included in that capital cost is the interest on that loan, but that is of the PCL's commitment. We committed to repaying their debt, which includes the interest and principal amount.
Okay. Stay here. Commissioner Savas, you're up.
Yeah, I just want to make a comment. You know, my understanding is that we were going to maintain a certain, as far as materials and construction materials for the building, that we were going to be buying a quality facility using quality materials, and there would be no downgrade. And I'll just tell you that my experience with aluminum versus copper is that if I was to build my own home or build a building, I'd be choosing copper any day of the week over aluminum. It lasts forever. There are no other issues with it. There is with aluminum. There's a risk. So I just see this as a downgrade. That's my comment.
Thank you. Commissioner West?
Can we, if we want to keep the quality up, can we keep the copper and then can we a la carte this a little bit?
That's really difficult to do at this point because we've already, the contractor's already been moving forward.
Okay,
with
and I don't know
changes.
anything about the difference between copper and aluminum. I have no idea.
I mean, we had a lot of discussions about both of these, and,
Engineers were part of this, right?
I'm sorry.
Engineers were part of this.
Oh, yeah, and the engineers also were part of the conversations as well. And it was our understanding, and it was very clear to us that there was no change in performance in either of these items.
Okay, and then just so I understand the financing piece, a bank in Canada holds the note. It is, the guarantor of that is the private entity. We pay for all of the expense of that bond, right? So we don't hold the bond. We pay for it is it kind of like mom and dad help a kid buy a new car, and mom and dad own the title and hold the car, but we pay all the expenses with our job at Taco Bell? Is it kind of like that for somebody?
Sure, but I think it's a little more serious because the kid blood is involved.
Okay, thank you.
We've committed the commissioners have committed to repayment of that debt.
Okay, thank you.
Further questions or comments? Seeing no objections, thank you.
Okay, next, item 2, approval of a 5-year cooperative service agreement with the United States Department of Agriculture for wildlife management and damage control. No fiscal impact, no county general funds are involved. And item 3 actually is related, so I'm going to read it at the same time. Approval of a fiscal year 2023-2024 work and financial plan with the United States Department of Agriculture for wildlife management and damage control under the Cooperative Service Agreement. The contract value is $87,854.60. Funding is through budgeted county general funds. So item 2 is just extending the time. Item 3 is the money. Tracy Moreland, Policy Advisor, County Administration. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. So this is just the renewal, the second item there, the first item, is a renewal of the agreement with USDA's ARM, it's Wildlife Services Division. They work with the county and the state to make sure that wild animals and predators are not infringing on the health and safety of humans. And so this agreement expires June 30th of this year. So they're just asking to renew that. And the second item is the work plan that comes before you every year. So once 5 years and once this year's.
Commissioner West.
How do they ensure that predators like cougars and bears don't encroach on our area? How do they do that, and what's that process look like?
So they employ somebody who's, I think, commonly called the county trapper, and he is dedicated to our area and answers calls. He works with private I guess, animal control companies, and then ODF&W, so the state, and works closely with the sheriff's office, I think, is the main department they work with. So when someone calls the sheriff's office with those kinds of complaints, they go out and send the folks they need to answer those calls and ensure safety and either find the animal or do what they need to do there.
Do they hunt and terminate the animal, or do they relocate?
I think it depends on the situation. I'm not sure.
Do you know if they utilize a tag service through the Oregon Department of Wildlife for hunters to help manage populations, or is this all done through a trapper, or I don't know what the term?
I'm not sure, but I know that I spoke with them about the contract, and they said that they would be happy to come and present to you all if you're interested to talk about all of that. And I'm sure that we could find some examples from the sheriff's office about what's been done recently. There was a cougar attack, I think, in 2019 that in Mount Hood National Forest, and that was, I think, the only time that major service was needed.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Seeing no further comments, thank you.
All right, thank you. Next, County Council. Item 1, designation of a newspaper for 2023 property tax foreclosure publication. The fiscal impact is estimated at $1,566. Funding is through budgeted county general funds. Kathleen Rastetter, Assistant County Counsel, go ahead.
Good morning. This is our yearly designation of a newspaper to do the statutorily required notice of the foreclosure list. Notice goes to the individuals, but it also is by statute required to be done in a newspaper. And so we switch off newspapers every year. So this year it's the Lake Oswego Review that we're recommending. The funds are based on what it cost us last year to do it. That can change depending on whether the list is shorter or longer, but it doesn't change much. So this is the designation of the newspaper, and we just ask that you approve it.
Questions or comments, Commissioner West?
Is this not done online?
It's not allowed by statute. That needs to be updated, obviously, but right now it's required to be done in a newspaper.
That's crazy. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Seeing no objections, thank you, Kathleen.
Thank you.
Next, disaster management. Item 1, approval of a grant agreement with the City of Portland for the fiscal year 2022 Urban Area Security Initiative grant. Total agreement value is $275,000 for 2 years. Funding is through the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. No county general funds are involved. Daniel Neibauer, Director of Disaster Management. Go ahead.
Good morning, Chair Smith, Commissioners, Administrator Smith. This grant agreement will be a continuation of a project for 911 resiliency. It was a gap identified in the 2020 wildfires when we needed to move CCOM's dispatch stations. And so this project is a continuation of the gap identification and what we needed, and that will allow dispatchers to have mobile terminals so that if we need to relocate CCOM, they can move to another location much easier than we did in the 2020 wildfires and have their full capability at a different location. And CCOM is leading it for the region so that there'll be interoperability between the dispatch centers, which there is, but the mobile units will continue that.
Commissioner Scholl.
Yes, does this include is this equipment trailer mounted, mobile?
It's not trailer mounted. I believe it's in briefcases and boxes, so it can be moved multiple in different ways.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Schrader.
Yeah, when you talk about interoperability, there were gaps in communication between folks who are out in the field and the central location. Is that the concept in my head that's correct or not? I mean,
That, in addition to these units can be used by the dispatch centers from the 5 counties within the region. So we could use them. Washington County, their dispatch center called WACA could use them. City of Portland could use them, and that way they can be used by multiple centers depending on where the need is.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, I thought my ringer was turned off.
It's okay.
Any further questions or comments?
Oh, no, I'm done, sorry.
Okay, seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
Next, Finance Department, item 1, approval of a board order delegating limited signing authority for the purposes of applying or accepting grants previously approved by the board via an online grant management portal. No fiscal impact, no county general funds are involved. Elizabeth Comfort, Finance Director, and Joseph, I forgot your last name, Grants Manager. Rosevear, sorry, Joseph. Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you. Good morning again, Commissioners and Chair Smith. So the county has over $140 million that passes through annually through grants. And so those provide funding for many projects and many services in our community. We have 2 ways to approve these dollars that come into the county. When we first have an opportunity to apply, we have an application process. We use a form called the life cycle form. And there's 2 different sets of approvals. If that grant is under $150,000, you've given Gary authorization to approve that grant application. If it's over $150,000, it will come to you. So like today, I believe in Health and Housing and Human Services, they'll be bringing to you grant application requests. Then after the application has been approved by the grantor, then we come back to you and say, we now would like to receive the funds, the award. So say if it's $100,000, we now want to receive $100,000 in that grant. Our approval process is then to come back to you and you give us hopefully a permission to accept those dollars. So we've come to a technology change where now a lot of this happens online. So Joseph, our grant manager, and I, we partner together on these online access websites, and we have several of them, too many to describe here. And so we've now been challenged with, we have to apply online. So typically we've been bringing you an actual application, which Chair Smith, you will sign for us. Well, a lot of them are doing away with that, and I have to certify or need to certify, I'm asked to certify that application. So we're asking today for a resolution to be signed by you as our commissioners to delegate that authority to myself and or to Gary. Once you've approved that here, I can actually go online and I can certify it, Elizabeth Comfort, Finance Director, to apply for that grant. The second part of that is we have the same scenario for awards. Now we're supposed to accept, a lot of them want us to accept online with that same certification to accept that grant amount. Again, in the same resolution, ask for your delegation authority. Of course, we bring it to you, but to actually do it is going to be my signature or Gary's signature on that permanent paperwork of accepting that award. So today I ask for your consideration to delegate that authority to Gary and myself for both of those.
Just a comment I'd like to make, since the chair signs a lot of these documents, even since I've become on chair, the signing mechanisms have changed, let's say. Some documents require wet signature, some can use an electronic signature, and then there's a signature that's in the middle on DocuSign, where you flip through all the electronic documents, and we've all done DocuSign documents, I'm sure, in our private lives. So that technology has changed quite a bit, too. Elizabeth, in your absence, if you were not able to sign these documents, who does so? if we were to grant this authority through this resolution?
Either Gary or my designee, which would be my Deputy Director, Patrick Williams.
So is that outlined in this resolution in the absence of such? Like, Gary, I assume in your case, for instance, if you were unable, it would go to our COO, his next succession in line, who is in succession of line in the event, probably won't happen, that you're unable to sign the documents.
So you're correct, Chair. For me, when I designate an acting county administrator, they have full authority as if I was still here, and it's the same for Elizabeth as a department director, so she would designate her deputy director, so those would be our two backups.
Okay, so your deputy director is the designee.
Yes.
I'm very comfortable with that, thank you. Any further questions or comments from commissioners? No, seeing no further discussion, thank you.
Great. Next, item 2, approval of a resolution authorizing a debt issuance of up to $7 million to finance the purchase of a facility and property at 6605 Lake Road, Milwaukee for the Health Center's Behavioral Health Clinic. No county general funds are involved. Joining is Cindy Becker, Project Manager, County Administration. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Today, we'd like to request the resolution to be signed for us to seek out bonds of $7 million. This would be part of an $11 million purchase of this building on Lake Road for our health center behavioral health services. And this has been quite a project. Cindy Becker has been working with the health center team locating the building. In fact, this is our second building on this road, so it may look familiar, but it is right next door. And we do believe that this building is better suited. So I'd like to ask Cindy to elaborate.
Good morning, Commissioners. Cindy Becker, County Administration. Third time is a charm. Actually, this is like fifth time, I think, so definitely a charm. But this is a great building. And so, as Elizabeth said, this is right down the road. It's known as the Pamplin Building. Pamplin owns the building. And so we're very excited about this building. It's in great shape. We've had the appraisal done. We'll talk about it with the PSA later. But this is part of the financing package. It's $11 million, $7 million in debt that will be paid. No general funds. This will be paid by the behavioral health, Health Center's Behavioral Health Clinic. So it's from their funds. And we're looking at a 15-year note on this, and the rest of the fund, I think, is outlined, will be outlined later when we talk with you about the purchase and sale agreement. But there's no general funds to repay this bond.
And I'd also like to add that the team has done from Health Centers, Adam has done a 15-year forecast with their funding, their revenue, and to include the payment for this potential bond. And it does work. So they're financially stable.
Okay.
But I will note that the general fund is the backer for this, our AAA rating that we talked about during the budget process. So if we go forward with this, we'll be able to use our AAA rating to seek a good rate for this bond.
Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, well, it's been a
It's
long...
not flooded.
I know, it's up the road from the flood zone, so that's a good sign. And I know that Cindy, you've done a lot of work on this, I appreciate it. This is no reflection on you or the current staff or the current director of H3S, this is in the past, but I have some questions. One is, what do we need to do for TIs? That's obviously not included, or is it included in the agenda item for the $11 million later on in the packet?
Well, actually, this building is in great shape, and we're getting about $200,000 worth of furnishings and equipment, and it's just about move-in ready, quite honestly. There may be some things that we need to do, but anything, the department has looked at this, staff have looked at it with facilities, and there may be some things over time, but in terms of immediate things that need to be fixed, we've just had the inspection report. There are some things that need to be fixed on the building. We're looking at negotiating that with the owner of the building and looking at whether those can be a credit or how those will be done beforehand. For example, it needs a roof. And so we're looking at having that, we are having that conversation with the seller, but in terms of internal, the guts of the building, there's very little that needs to be done, and anything that does need to be done the financing will be borne by the clinic.
Yeah. Well, I hope that is all good, and as we assume, and I only bring that up because, it wasn't that long ago, a few years ago, where we acquired the property, which is now Tukwila Springs, under the assumption that for $1 million or so in 6 months and $500,000 in TIs, we'd move in ready in 6 months. And it was several years later and several $1 million later that none of that was accurate. So I just don't want to walk into that, and I just trust, again, that we won't be there, but
Commissioner, it's a fair question, and the staff were very excited about the guts of this building in terms of being able to be move-in ready. And so this is, as opposed to the other building we were looking at, which would have needed extensive TI, this is just like the flip side of that.
okay. Thank you.
Further comments or questions? I'm so happy this is going forward. Thank you for your hard work on this. Like you say, it is just practically move-in ready, and we couldn't have a better situation. I look forward to program development, staff in the back. Look forward to the potential that you have planned for this. It's going to be very exciting. See no further objections or any objections whatsoever.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, Transportation and Development, item 1, approval of a contract amendment with Stellar J Corporation for the South End Road at milepost 3.8 project. The amendment value is $510,693.67. Contract value is increased to Value is increased to $3,783,400.92. Funding is through the Federal Emergency Relief Program and county road funds. No county general funds are involved. Dan Johnson, go ahead.
Thank you so much. Chair Smith, Commissioners, we've talked to you about this project in the past. Essentially, South End Road at milepost 3.8 was damaged by, as a result of some heavy rains in 2017. We were able to secure an emergency relief program, federal monies from that program, to repair this issue. Basically, this issue and the repair we're talking about is design and construction of a 450-foot-long tie-back soldier pile wall and a 314-foot-long cantilever wall to stabilize the road side and slope. Pretty significant project. I want to highlight the fact that those emergency relief program funds are funding they're funding 89.73% of the total cost of the project. During construction, extensive voids were found in the underlying geology, basically where they had the tie-backs for the walls. They were larger than our geotechnical analysis had suggested. And so basically to remedy those voids, large amounts of concrete slurry were pumped into those anchor areas to solidify and hold those walls back where necessary. The negotiated amendment is $510,693.67, resulting in the total contract amount that the county administrator read. I want to note that this additional work did delay construction, required changes in construction sequencing, and required cold weather work measures, all of which related to this cost increase that we're seeing today. With that, the amendment is in accordance with the county's LCRB rules for a negotiated contract amendment to the original construction contract, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
So the road is fixed, but you're making more improvements. Is that what I'm supposed to gather from this?
To fix the wall, to anchor the wall, there were voids that were discovered where the anchors, voids in the ground where the anchors were supposed to be placed. And to fix those voids, we can't put the wall up without the anchors being stabilized. And to stabilize the anchors, we had to pump the concrete slurry in there to stabilize them in place and provide more stabilization for the wall. Correct.
Commissioner Schull.
Yes, that sounds interesting. Was there any action taken to relieve hydrostatic pressure behind the wall? Because that's your problem is the water. And Dan, I probably shouldn't ask that question. It's just a matter of curiosity for me. I don't really need an answer. I retract my question.
Thank you. Any further questions to this? It sounds rather complicated. Seeing no objections, thank you.
Thank you.
Item 2, approval of a settlement agreement with and mutual release of claims between Jason and Tiffany Stahley, Paul and Diane Stahley, in Clackamas County related to potential issues caused in connection with improvements to South Central Point Road and South New Era Road. Settlement value is $20,000. Funding through county road funds. No county general funds are involved.
Yes, in 2021, the county completed a construction project to realign and improve the intersection of South Central Point Road and South New Era Road. The project also, as a lot of our projects do, improved storm drainage. In short, this was a claim that we received from an adjacent property owner. We've been working through that claim in concert with county council, and it was determined the best course going forward was simply to do a one-time settlement agreement. Basically a settlement agreement that would pay for the improvements those private property owners feel are warranted in that area, and a payment that would basically allow the county to walk away from any future claims associated with that. We've not affirmed anything, denied anything. It's basically an assertion that's been made in regards to the historical drainage way associated with this roadway. Again, I want to highlight the fact it was in concert with county council, and this was the recommendation on the best path going forward.
Questions or comments? Seeing no objections.
Thank you.
Next, Health, Housing, Human Services. Item 1, approval of an intergovernmental agreement with David Douglas School District to develop a culturally responsive early childhood screening tool. Agreement value is $186,340 for 2.1 years. Funding is through the David Douglas School District. No county general funds are involved. Rod Cook, Director of Health, Housing, Human Services. Go ahead.
Yes, this is a revenue contract with David Douglas, as mentioned, and basically our early learning program would work with Multnomah County to assess a current document that's used to determine a child's abilities at kindergarten. So this would be upgrading that document. Once we're finished with it, we'd be able to use it on children here in Clackamas County or any of the districts and school districts here in our county who would prefer to use it.
Commissioner Schrader.
Yeah, my only question is, it's David Douglas. Do we not utilize our ESD for this, Ron, or Clackamas County?
It's a ages and stages document that's used to, like if my child were to go, that's the assessment tool they would use. And so what they want to do is look at, it's missing some cultural competency to it. And an example that was given to me as one of the questions is, can your child developmentally use a fork? Well, some nationalities and ethnicities do not use forks, they use their hands. So they're going to change out some of the questions to make it more appropriate that way.
Further questions or comments? Seeing no objections.
Item 2, approval of an amendment increasing funding from an intergovernmental agreement with the Oregon Health Authority for financing community mental health, addiction treatment, recovery and prevention, and problem gambling services. The amendment value is $280,480.96 for 6 months. The agreement value is increased to $15,682,170.94 for 1.5 years. Funding is through the Oregon Health Authority. No county general funds are involved.
Yes, this is also a revenue contract. The new but ongoing funding started in 2023 with the focus on expanding child and family expertise on the Clackamas Mobile Response Team and providing up to 56 days of crisis stabilization services for children, youth who otherwise may have needed to go to the hospital.
Questions or comments? Seeing no objections.
Item 3, approval of an intergovernmental agreement with the University of Washington Northwest Center for Public Health Practice for a clinical needs assessment. Agreement value is $49,900 for 8 months. Funding is through the Oregon Health Authority.
Yes, the COVID-19 epidemic revealed limitations in the local healthcare system's ability to provide clinical treatments rapidly. This agreement is for an assessment and will result in a report with recommendations to address the long-term stability of Clackamas County Public Health's clinical preventive service programs and strategies for implementation.
Questions or comments? Seeing no objections.
Item 4, approval of an amendment adjusting funding and updating program language to a revenue intergovernmental agreement with Oregon Health Authority for the financing of public health services. Amendment value is $1,463,615.57. Total agreement value is increased to $18,543,085.71 for 2 years. Funding is through the Oregon Health Authority. No county general funds are involved.
Yes, this amendment provides Clackamas Public Health as the local public health authority with additional funding. I'll read these quickly. $44,871 for the WIC program, or Women, Infant, and Children's Program. $52,000, a little bit over $50,000 for tuberculosis services. A little bit over $100,000 for school-based health services, and $1.2 million for CDC infrastructure funds. These funds are used in alignment with Oregon Public Health Modernization Initiative.
Questions or comments? Seeing no objections.
Item 5, approval of an amendment increasing funding and duration of a revenue lease agreement with Genoa Healthcare for rental space at the Beaver Creek Health Clinic. Amendment value is $30,000 for 3 years. Total agreement value is increased to $65,000 for 6.5 years. Funding is through Genoa Healthcare. No county general funds are involved.
Yes, Genoa Healthcare LLC previously leased space in the Hilltop Clinic. Due to the courthouse being built on Red Soils campus, the pharmacy must be relocated to the new health center's behavioral health space within DSB. So they're basically paying rent there.
Questions or comments? Seeing no objections.
Item 6, approval of an amendment increasing funding and updating program language to an intergovernmental grant agreement with the Oregon Department of Human Services for Older Americans Act and Oregon Project Independence programs. The amendment value is $1,335,733. Total agreement value is increased to $10,764,143 for 2 years. Funding is through the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, the state of Oregon, and a match of $103,110 in budgeted county general funds.
Yes, this program funds services such as nutrition programs, evidence-based health promotion activities, support for family caregivers, transportation, case management, and information and referral activities and in-home services.
Questions or comments? Seeing no objections.
Item 7, approval of an amendment increasing funding and changing the scope of work of a federal subrecipient grant agreement with Central City Concern for the Law Enforcement Assisted Diversion Program. The amendment value is $335,174.22. Total agreement value is increased to $1,878,643.36 for 18 months. Funding is through the U.S. Department of Justice, Metro Supportive Housing Services Funds, and $395,000 in budgeted county general funds.
Yeah, I'll give a little bit more background on this one. Since 2019, Clackamas County's Law Enforcement Assisted Diversion, or LEAD, program has diverted hundreds of individuals with substance use disorder from the criminal justice system to case management services, improving community health and safety. This amendment, number 1, adds fund for vehicle expenses to support outreach and engagement work throughout the county, new administrative staff to relieve case managers. This new case manager will work with Milwaukee Police Department behavioral health specialists to provide focused outreach, engagement, and follow-up care.
Questions or comments on this? Seeing no objections.
Item 8, approval of a revenue intergovernmental agreement with the City of Lake Oswego to provide medical direction to first responders. The agreement value is $61,200 for 4 years. Funding is through the City of Lake Oswego. No county general funds are involved.
This agreement will ensure that the City of Lake Oswego first responders meet the Oregon State licensure requirements and protocols for providing emergency medical services and care in Clackamas County.
Commissioner Scholl.
Mr. Cook, I don't quite understand this one. This is providing funds to Lake Oswego to educate their first responders? How does this work? And why is it for Lake Oswego? Why don't we see something like this if it's legitimately required? Why don't we see it for other cities?
I believe that the City of Lake Oswego is using our expertise to get to their place of licensure. They evaluate, I'll read this, they evaluate each EMS's provider skill performance annually, give case reviews, roundtables, and other agreed-upon educational activities, and manage and direct training and quality improvement programs. So when a city decides that it wants some autonomy, but it doesn't have the licensure to get their people where they need, that's what's happening here. LO wants a little bit of autonomy. They're doing it kind of on their own, but they're using our expertise and our licensure to get them to the place they need to be.
I see. Okay, thank you.
Further questions or comments? Seeing no objections.
Item 9, approval of an amendment increasing funding to a behavioral health services delegation agreement with Care Oregon. Amendment value is $2,336,773 for 6 months. The total agreement value increased to $4,518,973 for 12 months. Funding is through the Oregon Health Plan. No county general funds are involved.
This is also revenue. The agreement provides the funds for intensive care coordination for adults and children, substance use disorder care coordination, wraparound support services, choice services, and administrative support. This amendment adds funding for the final 6 months of the contract to ensure caseload requirements can be met.
Questions or comments? Seeing none.
Item 10, approval of a purchase and sale agreement with Pamplin Real Properties for the purchase of real property located at 6605 Southeast Lake Road, Milwaukee, Oregon, 97222, for Health Centers Behavioral Health Clinic. Agreement value is $11 million. Funding is through a combination of county ARPA funds, health clinic funds, county full faith and credit bonds, and $1 million in budgeted county general funds. Cindy Becker is joining Rod. Go ahead.
Commissioners, Cindy Becker is going to give you the logistics of it. I'm going to bring up Sarah Jacobson, could talk about any program questions you may have, and I'll be right there in the back in case you need me.
Gary, just a point of process. We heard this earlier in this meeting, and we're hearing it again. Why?
You heard it under finance to sell the revenue bonds. Now you're hearing it under H3S, which is the main department with the funding, and you're going to hear it again next for signing authority. I'm sorry, that was another item. So it's two different departments for two different purposes for the same
I just
project.
wanted a point of clarification on that. Thank you. Cindy, go ahead.
So good morning again, Commissioners. As you heard a little earlier, thank you very much for approving the bond financing. And this building, as we mentioned, this has been the end goal of a long and winding road. And we're very excited about this building. It offers great opportunities. It's 43,000 square feet. It's in great shape. It's on, I think, 2.7 acres. We are excited about the opportunities, not only in terms of the current services, but we're able to expand services. And so the building itself, we're using a combination of, and thank you for the allocation of $2 million in ARPA funds, actually $2.85 million in ARPA funds, because the money that was not needed for WIC for ARPA, you graciously redirected to this project. We also have $1 million in county general funds, and the reason for that is because the original building that housed the clinics was paid for out of community CDGB funds, and if we move the clinics, we have to either pay the federal government back or reinvest, and those dollars are at about $1 million today. So that's why the $1 million of general funds, and then we have a little bit of clinic funds in that, and the rest of that is the bond. So it's a great package, and if you have questions about the programming, Sarah's here to talk about those, but we really appreciate your patience and questions and excitement about this building.
Go ahead. Please talk about programming.
Great, thank you. Good morning, Commissioners. Chair Smith, Sarah Jacobson, Interim Director of the Health Centers. Cindy is correct. This is a beautiful building. Our staff are so excited about this building. Short of building our own building, we couldn't have asked for a better fit. This Pamplin building will be a wonderful home for our staff and for the clients that we serve. In 2022, we served close to 5,500 clients in our behavioral health program, and we served them with over 52,000 visits in one calendar year. We are the largest behavioral health providers in Clackamas County. By moving into this building, we are able to move all of those services and those clients into this location to have a permanent and stable home and expand our services. Behavioral health services are uniquely situated to be in person and also benefit from telehealth services as well. So we're able to move into the basically move-in ready building and serve our clients right away and continue to expand our services while we do potentially incremental TI on the building. It really is a great opportunity, and I really appreciate your consideration.
Yes, questions from commissioners. Commissioner Scholl.
Yes, thank you for your work on this. When do you expect the purchase to close, and what's your move-in date?
Thank you, Commissioner. We are projecting right now a mid-August closing, and we'd certainly like to move in before the end of the calendar year, depending upon anything else that might come up or documents or whatever, but that's what we're projecting.
Okay, so and the deconstruction of the current building is going to happen then next? Okay, done. So all completed. Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, just for sake of brevity, as Cindy introduced, the long and windy path is on Lake Road. This section is a long and windy road.
Yes, I would agree. I would also like to thank the Pamplin Media Group, for lack of a better name, in their willingness to allow this property to be purchased for this purpose, by allowing this property to be bought by us for this purpose. They are too helping in a social crisis in Clackamas County and across the region for treatment of a very growing and needy population. Thank you very much for that. Later on, when you're in maybe a year from now or less, I'm really looking forward to an update on possible expansion of services that we've talked about before. And yeah, just keep those numbers flowing. Thank you very much for this.
Well, you'll be invited as soon as we move in. You'll be invited to the grand opening.
Thank you very much, staff, for doing this. We're very excited, as I know you are. I see all these head nods in the back. Okay, thank you very much. Gary.
Item 11, adoption of a board order approving delegation of signing authority for sewer line easement and related documents for 18980 Leland Road in Oregon City. No fiscal impact, no county general funds are involved. Rod, go ahead.
Yes, and this is the item that you dealt with Adam, when Adam Brown came up earlier. It was item number 2 for Housing Authority. And now this is the same thing, just now under the board, general board.
Questions or comments? We heard this earlier. Yep, seeing no objections, thank you.
Great, thank you. All of these items will be on tomorrow's business meeting, except for elected officials number 2, which we pulled for an additional week. All right, commissioners, you have 5 items that need action today, and you have 45 minutes left, so staff will go as quickly as we can.
Thank you very much.
First, ARPA funding allocations. Nancy Bush, County Operating Officer, please come forward. There was a memo in your packet. We're seeking a decision today, and Nancy, I hope you'll explain why. Go ahead, Nancy.
Good morning again, Commissioners. Yes, we're here to talk about ARPA and to obligate the rest of the ARPA dollars, which is a little over $8.7 million. It is really important to do this today. From my understanding, they're going to be voting, I think, tomorrow on the clawback, and anything that is not obligated is in danger of being taken back by the U.S. Treasury. So that's why we kind of need to get this done today. All of the projects that you see there are eligible projects. I do need to just kind of mention that we do have some a request on there for DTD for road projects because the infrastructure has been added. We do not have the guidance for that yet. However, we know infrastructure includes, of course, roads, and I think even for water, those types of things. So if you do decide to give some dollars there, we can obligate it today, but then come back later and say, well, here's the guidance and here's how we can use it. So I'll just turn it over to you for some discussion.
Okay, we have projects totaling $12,830,000. And Nancy, how much money do we have left to
We
spend?
have $8,767,594.
So I don't know how to go down this list. Commissioners, the best way I think that we can go down this list and say, okay, this is what we've, based on our goals we've heard. I'm just going to start, and then Commissioners, you can add in. The Adult and Teen Challenge Northwest, a residential treatment facility for women. They are very successful. They've been doing this addiction services, residential treatment for over 50 years. They have a facility in Estacada for men. They have reached out to Clackamas County with a request to buy a building so they can do addiction and treatment services for women. The request is $2 million. I don't know how else to do this, Gary.
That's
Yay
fine.
or nay?
Yep.
Okay, we're kind of up against it, so we're just going to have to work our way in through this. I'm hoping that there's something for everybody on this. Commissioner West, you have your light on.
I wish we weren't under the time constraint we're under, but we are. So some of the ideas I had are not going to be within this time constraint. So here we go. I do hope that we can try to put as much money from ARPA towards H3S or something that deals with addiction, mental health, or housing for people that kind of fits within our worldview. I think that your Teen Challenge request totally, I think, am I getting their name right?
Yes.
Yeah, that request I think is reasonable. I also think though we need, because because Senator Merkley and Ron Wyden seem to be and Congressman Blumenauer seem to not be interested in dealing with the Bull Run Bridge, that can some of this funding be used for that infrastructure? Because I think that's been something that's been brought to our attention, that the community really wants us to make a number one transportation priority. And for me, also the 65th and Ellingston, can it be also used towards that project?
What's
I see
65th
Dan-
and Ellingston, excuse me?
That's that dangerous intersection just outside of Wilsonville on 65th and Stafford. So those are my three thoughts.
Okay, so is 65th and Elliston on this list?
Dan's going to cover
Is 65th and Elliston on this list?
65th and Ellison.
Is it on this list?
And it would come under the DTD. So Dan is going to cover.
Specifically, it's not on this list.
That's correct.
And I have some questions, too, about the road situation. Go ahead, Dan, please.
Great, thank you so much. Dan Johnson, Director of the Department of Transportation Development. That's a great question, and it's why you see the title the way you see it, basically just saying road projects. And Nancy and I discussed this last Friday, I think it was, last Friday morning, and the concern was without guidance currently here, it limits our ability to be more specific about what those projects are going to be. But you can be assured of the fact that if this allocation is made, it's our commitment to you to come back, have a discussion about where these dollars might be plugged in. There's a couple of options. Specific capital projects could displace money that could go somewhere else and be leveraged. We've got inflationary impacts on some projects. This may cover some of those costs on some of those projects we're looking at. We've got a variety of ways to use those dollars, but we would not commit those dollars until coming back to the board and having a discussion about where and when those are committed to.
Okay, that goes to my question. If those dollars are approved by this board yet not committed, does a clawback procedure take effect?
So
What's the language I'm missing on this?
So you can obligate.
Obligate.
Yes.
It's not allocate, it is obligate.
That is the language we are hearing. So yes, we're obligating, and you can obligate the dollars for infrastructure. And we can, I believe, we can come back and then say, here's how we're using it for infrastructure.
All right. Commissioner Savas.
Well, I think most of my questions have been answered, but I just didn't know if you had a breakdown of what those obligations might look like as far as allocations. So you mentioned one project. Would this all be one project, or would there be some other ones as well?
I think that we would bring forward to you kind of let me back up. The most complicating factor is the lack of guidance. And so if we had guidance that identified like spending window when you could do it, what they would wish to prioritize, maximize, then we would have brought to you a more specific package of information. With the lack of guidance we have now, we're unable to do that.
Okay, so I want to talk about this. I've had internal conversations with our staff, and I've been very frustrated, just so commissioners know. I've been trying to get these dollars out the door, and we keep waiting for guidance. But yet I look to my neighbors to the north, Multnomah County and Washington County, theirs is spent and out the door, correct? So we need to make the decision today, commissioners, to spend it and get the money obligated. Now, if we want to go down the transportation road, and if we set $2 million aside for Recovery Center, we will have $1,700,000 left for the entire list. So I'm going to be doing a little math here along the way. And as far as transportation projects are concerned, there's a whole nother pot of money for that. The bridge project has been just a horrific challenge for us without any help from anybody else. And we've all seen the blowback from the community on this. Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, anyhow, I was just going to finish my train of thought here on my question. So the other one I had, not knowing exactly where we are here to obligate, not allocate. So we're meeting the timeline, I get that. So what it appeals to me, Dan, you kind of touched on it, what appeals to me, and these ARPA I think is appropriate, is that where there had been big, huge price spikes as a result of the COVID, which these dollars are here to somewhat help get to. So I'm hoping that we can capitalize on that where possible. So that's why I see that. And also on the infrastructure thing. So I would like to see, and again, I don't have a number. I don't know if maybe this could be broken down into a smaller number so it's not a big of a bite, but that's what I was kind of trying to get at, what that might look like. But I imagine something's better than nothing, but I just didn't know how we do that in an educated way. So what would you say were options, Dan? For
I think if you were to obligate those dollars today for road projects, and I think we have a pretty good handle from discussions we've had with you in the past, what your priorities are. I mean, what priority projects are. When we've heard about, obviously, the Bull Run Bridge is near and dear to our heart and want to get that thing fixed. We've got certain projects in certain areas that had inflationary impacts. We're aware of that. We're aware of what your desires are. But it's all the complexity around, and I know you don't want to hear it, but the direction, for example, let's use Bull Run as a great example. So if we leverage those, we direct those monies today against that project, and then the direction comes down and it has to be spent by a certain point, then we've got to figure out how to close that funding gap that's out there. And there still would be, this was $5 million?
Yeah.
I mean, I think the number we talked about previously, it's about 9.5 right now is the gap. So then the question is, where does that other $4 million come in? But if that guidance gives some flexibility in our ability to kind of leverage other funding and bring other things forward and work with other partners and meet multiple objectives and gives us the time to build that project, then that would be something we'd come forward to the board about. And also keep in mind that it may redirect other funds. I mean, these are just obligation of funds. We leverage funds every day, and we leverage them on where they can be spent, how they can be spent most efficiently and effectively to meet the transportation needs of Clackamas County. And we would come back to you and have that discussion. So,
Paul, anything more?
that's what I got.
Okay, and after Mark's comment, I'm going to go down this list, because on this list is recent asks from this board. Some of it came out of our budget committee. Some of it came out of your project and your project. So I just want to let you know, if you're going to spend a wad, $5 million for a bridge that we may or may not get matching funds for, keep that in mind. Commissioner Scholl.
Let's clarify something. How many hours do you have to have these dollars committed?
We need
As in today?
We need to commit them today.
As in this morning?
Yes, sir.
As in before 11 o'clock? Okay. So this list, everything on this list is a legitimate ask. It would be helpful to the county. If we took the $8.7 million and everything on this list and related to a percentage of the 8.7, did the math on it. So, yeah, the $2 million for adult and teen challenge, they end up getting something like 1.5 and go right down the list. So, there's a percentage based on the ask compared to the 8.7. We reduce each ask so that it comes out to 8.7 million. Do you understand
Spread the peanut
me?
butter.
Yeah, spread the peanut butter.
Do you understand me?
Yeah, I do understand, yes,
So
sir.
it's an easy mathematical thing. If I had my calculator here, I could work out each one. At the end of it, you come out with exactly $8,767,594, and it's done. That would be my recommendation.
I like that recommendation, Commissioner Scholl, but I do want to read the list and explain to those listening why it's on the list. Shared Housing Project, Senate Bill 1020, configure interior homes to make it a shareable living space, $1.5 million, that was Commissioner West. The Molalla Adult Community Center, planning dollars for a new facility, $200,000. The reason why this is on here, back in the 1980s, the city of Molalla built a senior center with community block grant funds. The city of Molalla has taken that over. I had staff go back and research, should the city of Molalla pay back the original community block grant dollars as what's supposed to be done? Since it's been the 1980 or 81, they cannot find the documents, okay? So this money is going back, because they already bought a piece of land, and they're trying to build a new community center, not an adult or senior center. So that's why that is payback from monies that should be coming from elsewhere. It's just 200,000. It's just a drop in the bucket for what they need to do. That's why that is on there. OSU Extension Building, that's on there. H3S, Community Connections, Career Workforce Services. And a couple of things that have come out of our Budget Committee meeting, there were cuts. Children of incarcerated parents for year 1 and 2. And then we'll have to find funding after that. Out of the Budget Committee was PreventNet Community Schools, year 1 and 2. Also, Clackamas Fire District Community Paramedic Program, 1.5 million. I hear they're really excited about that. And Disaster Management, VOC, Emergency Tracking Software, that will be used until 2026 of $150,000. So, that's the list. Commissioner Scholl.
Oh, no,
Oh, okay, sorry. You're done, yeah. Commissioner West.
I just, the Fire District Community Paramedic Program, I just want to I fully support that. I just did a ride along with them. That is essential and to fund it. It's had difficulty having long-term funding. So, Chair, thank you for adding that to this list. I think that was a very insightful thing that you did. I love that we are taking action for the children of incarcerated parents, that we were all concerned as a Budget Committee to preserve that. I mean, I like this list. It still gives $5 million to the transportation issues, which right? DDT
No.
road projects?
No. Commissioner Scholl said if we fund everything on the list but transportation, correct? We will mostly have used up the monies.
Is it?
Or no. You know what? Make a motion.
What?
Okay.
No, hold on.
Okay.
It says right here that part of the money that's left is $5 million for road project DT. Am I seeing
No,
that?
no, that's
No,
the ask.
the list adds up to 12.
That's the ask. As at the
Oh,
12.
got you. Thank you. Okay.
So what Commissioner Scholl has said is to take the 8.7 million and fund the projects, everything, even DTD?
Yes,
Okay,
yes. It's easy.
okay, but on some of these projects, for instance, children of incarcerated parents and PreventNet, we're seeking full funding on that. We're seeking full funding on 200,000. We're seeking full funding on some of these others. So my recommendation would be to fund everything on the list, but road projects and bridge projects.
Okay, but you can't fund everything on the list with 8.6.
I think
Oh,
you
yeah,
can.
oh, you can, okay, you can.
Yes.
Okay, so I don't know the exact total if we did it that way, but I think we'd be very close, and
Yeah, Gary? Maybe Gary or Tony, can Nancy give us that number? What?
So
No.
we would have we would be spending 7.83. Someone check my
okay.
math.
we're
Which means
$900,000
we-
short on what we need to come up with.
No,
we-
you said
we
we have
have-
8, and you said we're spending 7.
Yeah, we have, Tony, you're checking my math. We have we have 8,767,594. If my math is correct, if we took
Tony
off-
has the answer. Go ahead,
Okay.
Tony, please.
Yeah, Tony.
Sorry, trying to do math. The difference, if we were to fund everything minus the road projects, the exact difference is $937,594 that have not been obligated under the existing projects.
So if we fund everything on the list, except for transportation projects, we will have an extra $937,000, which, Mr. Scholl, you said take the peanut butter and spread it through the projects. Is that what you meant?
That would work.
Okay.
yes.
So I'm going to make a motion to see how it goes here. So referencing the chart, the list that totals 12.83, I base my motion that we fully fund the Malala Adult Community Center for $200,000, fully fund H3S year 1 and 2 for children incarcerated parents for $90,000 and $90,000, fully fund the PreventNet Community schools for $100,000 each for year 1 and 2, and spread the remainder, as Commissioner Scholl had stated earlier, spread the remainder with the remaining balance apportionally.
Okay. If everybody understands that, I'll second that.
Which would include, it would include the DTD projects.
I understand that, so I'm going to try to repeat the motion. Okay. Commissioner Savas has moved that we fully fund $200,000 for the Mall Adult Center. We fully fund incarcerated parents year 1 and 2 of $180,000. We fully fund PreventNet Community Schools year 1 and 2 of $200,000. The remainder of the money we spend on the rest of the programs minus DTD.
No, including DTD.
Oh, including DTD?
Including DTD.
Oh, okay.
Spread across in a proportional amount.
Proportionally.
Okay. What does proportional mean?
Evenly throughout the
My
rest.
understanding is that we would take the balance of that fund and fund according to the remaining pool, the remaining pool of projects being
So if I do my math,
just about $12,250,000. Most of the fund is scattered across those other projects.
yeah, what you would do mathematically to make it proportional, as I intended to make it proportional, is take the remaining balance, figure out what percentage of that is remaining, and then divide that by each of the ask.
And proportionally reduce all those other projects to fill that delta.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
Does that make sense to staff? Do you know how to do that?
It makes sense to me, yes.
Okay, got it. It'll be great.
Just a minute, Ben. Gary?
I don't understand it, but if Nancy understands it, that's all that
I
matters.
understand it. I do. I get it.
Go ahead.
Tony,
I
get it.
don't understand it.
I do.
So does that mean that Adult Teen Challenge, Shared Housing Project,
We get less money.
and community paramedics and the emergency tracking software all get less money now?
Yes.
Yes.
So I like, we don't have a lot of specifics on the DTD funding. It's just, we're just trying to hold money, I guess, that maybe we can use. I mean, I like the idea of maybe nixing the road projects and then spreading the rest of that money out to the projects throughout. Like, I
Okay.
think that's easier.
Procedural commissioners, there is a motion on the table. Has it been seconded?
It's been seconded.
It's been seconded. We're going to vote up or down?
I want to make a motion to amend the original motion.
Okay. What do you want to say?
I want to do basically the same thing, but I want to remove DTD like that you said a few minutes
It
ago.
would be up to the maker of the motion. Do you accept that?
No, I'd just rather
He
just
does
vote on
not
the motion.
accept the amendment to the motion to eliminate the transportation projects, Commissioner Scholl.
Yeah, the inclusion of the transportation projects in this funding is something that actually can benefit everybody in the county. That's going to be spread, people are going to be able to use that countywide. So I recommend we keep it in there as motioned.
And then just reschedule money for the rest of it. And then, do we have to see it again?
No.
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 We would just
Once
let
we
you-
make this decision,
That's the other thing.
it is,
Then it goes to you guys, and you reallocate it, which is fine with me at this point.
it's
Yeah,
fine
and then we
with me too.
will provide you with we'll provide you with the list of the final numbers.
Commissioner West?
What's the hit to these other asks?
I don't know
That's a
until we,
big
I'm
deal.
not, I don't know until we do the math.
Okay, thank you very much. Any further discussion on this, Commissioner Scholl? So there is a motion on the table. Tony, is the motion clear?
Chair Smith, my understanding of the motion is clear. The county operations officer understands the motion.
I do.
Staff are prepared to.
And I understand the
Provide
motion
numbers.
as well. And I think the commissioners, most commissioners, so if there's ever a question to go back to procedure, one of us can be asked, or all of us, okay? Commissioner West, your light is on.
How quick for us to get the final numbers before we vote on this, to proportional numbers? How quick can we do the math? I want to know, I kind of want to know those numbers before.
Well,
I'm-
guess what?
I'm
I'm going to
attempting
call
to-
for a vote. Commissioner West, I appreciate your objection. However, as chair, I'm going to call in the vote. We're going to take an up or down vote and get this out the door. Thank you very much. This list, commissioners, we have been grappling with this. We have been grappling with this, and we've all had opportunity. There's something on this list for everybody that you can hang your hat on, okay? So if the teen and adult challenge don't get the whole $2 million, I bet you they would be happy to accept 1.7 million. Hello, that's the way it works. Same thing with your home share. If they don't get the whole 1.5 million, I bet they would be more than happy to accept 1.3 million or whatever the amount would be. So it's not like we're eliminating anything. This is not an exercise in perfection whatsoever. This is an exercise in spreading the remaining amount of our ARPA dollars to those who are in need that can use this for the greatest good of Clackamas County. So that's how I look at that. Thank you. Tony, take the poll.
Commissioner Schrader,
Aye.
Commissioner West,
Aye.
Commissioner Schull,
Aye.
Commissioner Savas,
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you, commissioners, for this very hard work. Thank you, staff, for doing this for us. It's not easy, but we've made a decision.
Thank you.
At today's point in time, we made a decision. Thank you very much.
So commissioners, I am going to propose to you on, when you do your budget approval, that you now back out of the $90,000 you gave to H3S for incarcerated parents because you now can fund it with ARPA.
Yep.
But we'll talk about that during your
Yeah,
budget
we'll do
meeting.
that.
Okay, next, Econolodge contract renewal. Rod Cook, Health, Housing, Human Services. There's a memo in your packet. When we last discussed this, you had specific edits you recommended, commissioners, to this contract renewal. We're back to you today to see if the edits you had requested are satisfactory before we move forward on this contract. So Rod, go ahead.
Yes, so going with Administrator mentioned, as you remember, we came before you with the contract, and I was working with Commissioners West and Commissioner Savas, mostly behind the scenes, to get some new language. So we've incorporated that new language, and we think it strengthens the contract overall. It puts in the good neighbor piece that connects to policy that we talked about in other arenas. So we think this would set us the motion for things into the future. So we've made the changes. They're listed for you. I could read them out for you, but basically, I think you've had it to read. So we're ready to move forward if you are.
Commissioners, do you have a comment?
I just want to thank Rod for accommodating and make those adjustments and changes, and we'll see how it goes. It's 1 year, so we'll see if how they perform, and if we need to make adjustments, we can make them a year from now.
Yes, and I'm glad you mentioned that because we did also change it from a 5-year to a 1 year for just what Commissioner Savage is talking about, to give us a look-see, give us an easier out if we need it. So we wanted to have all the options on our side, and we've done that. So again, thank you for bringing that up.
Yep. In principle, colleagues, is there was really just because it's a county-funded facility, even though it's Metro Supportive Services dollars, I thought it was appropriate to make sure that the facilities inside and out are well-kept, well-maintained, and look good, and are good neighbors, basically, essentially. So that's the principle behind this.
Thank you, Commissioner Savas. Commissioner West, you're up.
One question, has this been presented yet to the owner of the motel?
Yes, it has.
Has he been accepting of that? Really good. So thank you. I read this, reviewed it, great job, and I think it puts us as a county with stronger footing, and those that we're serving hopefully will have better facilities in which to get their lives recovered and on sure footing also. So this was good work. I think this was good negotiations. So yeah, thank you for your collaboration on that.
Oh, thank you for setting the standard.
Commissioner Schull?
I just wanted to say that I drove by the Econolodge on Monday. It looked good.
Yeah, I think already just in the conversation, I see some pods out there, and where the chair was there, it's gone. So I drive by there every day too. So we're checking it out and making sure we're moving forward.
Thanks.
I'll entertain a motion.
Chair, I move that we accept the contract as presented to us for the Econolodge.
So, commissioners, respectfully, you don't need a motion. This will go to consent next. That's what we'll approve it.
Okay. Great. Sorry about
We just want to
that.
make sure you're okay with the language because you had concerns last time. So if you're okay, we'll get it signed by the owner and we'll come back to you next week and you can approve it there.
Cool. Yeah, I am now okay with the language.
Okay. All right. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much, Rod. Thank you, staff.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, draft letter regarding the Mossman order. Stephen Madcore, Kathleen Rastetter, County Council, Mary Rumbaugh, Health, Housing, Human Services. There's a request that you sign a letter, and there is a draft letter in your packet. Go ahead, please, Kathleen.
Yes, Kathleen Rastetter, County Council. You had a draft letter dated March 17th. They are asking for the counties to join onto this letter. As you know, the county had approved previously us filing a motion to join in the lawsuit. We did that last week along with Deschutes County and Yamhill County. That motion was filed by Deschutes County as lead. And then that motion was denied yesterday by Judge Mossman. He did not allow the 3 counties to join in the lawsuit. So at this point, we are recommending that you join in this letter so that we can make our views and our concerns about the Mossman order known. This is a letter that would go to Governor Kotek and the Oregon Health Authority. They're hoping to get this letter out the end of this week. So we're asking today for your permission to join in on the letter. And Mary Rumbaugh is here with me as well.
Again, Kathy, excuse me, the 3 county, how many counties?
Well, there were 2 counties already joined, and then Deschutes, Clackamas, and Yamhill joined together in one motion last week. It was filed on Thursday, I believe, to join along with Marion County and Washington County. And the judge denied that motion yesterday, saying that we didn't show any special interest that could not be represented by the existing counties in the lawsuit.
And this is a letter to the governor with the 4 counties that you mentioned.
Well, they're asking all counties to join in it.
Oh, got it, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that'd be wonderful, more the merrier. Commissioner West, you're up.
Thank you. I think we should totally support this, but my other question is it appropriate, and maybe this is just, I might be sounding like being ignorant here, but is it appropriate for us to do something like an amicus brief in support of this? Are we already doing that? Or am I asking a stupid question? Is that the right term?
That's what we filed last week in
Okay.
the actual lawsuit itself, was the motion to join as amici, and it was denied yesterday.
That's what was denied, was doing the amicus. So this is now just a letter to the other branches of government, the executive
Correct.
branch saying, help, this is where we stand as local governments.
Correct.
Thank you.
And Gary, I believe we need a motion on this.
Yes.
I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Savas has moved that we sign on to the letter to the governor regarding the adverse consequences to local communities arising from the federal court order limiting admissions and services at the Oregon State Hospital, the letter along with Marion County, and Commissioner Schrader has seconded the motion. Further discussion? Seeing none, Tony, please take the poll.
Commissioner West,
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader,
Aye.
Commissioner Scholl,
Aye.
Commissioner Savas,
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye, motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much for your good work on this, both of you.
Thank you.
Gary, what's next?
Great. Next, Blue Ribbon Panel. Next steps, Cindy Becker, County Administration, will present. This is a follow-up to your discussion last month, seeking your direction to move forward. Go ahead, Cindy.
Good morning, Commissioners. The 3rd time is a charm for me to be up here, so here we go. So today's item is a follow-up from the planning session that you all had on April 26th, and the notes are attached to that. It was a really good conversation. And so what's next? And what's next are a couple of things that I need your feedback on so that we can move forward. Again, the background of this is that this was something that you talked about, I think, maybe is it a month ago or so, or 6 weeks ago, that you wanted to bring in folks from, particularly from outside of Oregon, to really look at how we provide services, the whole range, I think, is a recovery system of care for individuals with, primarily with addictions, but also with mental health issues, and then housing is a key component of that. And so this, what I'm bringing to you today is not only the minutes, but asking you for your approval of how we move forward on the next steps. Hopefully you've had a chance to read the document. It's a pretty brief document, but we want to confirm the mission and purpose of this effort. And it, I think, initially was all about housing in general, and you really, through the meeting we had, really focused around people who have behavioral health issues and challenges, and how do we implement a recovery system of care, and how do we make housing a part of that, as opposed to just, I don't mean just, but just housing. And so I think that clarification will be really important. The next piece is bringing together that's the Blue Ribbon Panel. I think you need another acronym besides the Blue Ribbon Panel, but to select panel members. And the next piece of that is once they're selected, to bring them together with the community, with you, to really start having some in-depth conversations, getting their expertise, getting them to really look at how we're doing things today, what are best practices, how do we overlay that on what we're doing, and what are the next steps for how we move forward to improve and enhance the services and system for this population. And so I don't know if you want to do this one by one or how you want to proceed. I think the critical piece is selecting your Blue Ribbon Panel members. There is a list of the folks that were recommended by you, by staff, and by some folks from some providers. So you see that list on page 3 of your attachment. It would be really critical because this is going to become a scheduling challenge. And so the sooner we get the names, the sooner we can move forward and really bringing folks together. Because we're coming into summer, we can try to get this 1.5-day meeting in the summer. I think it's going to be hard. So we may need to look at September. So it's really going to be up to you on how much you want me to push in trying to get something over the summer. That's your call. So I will open it to you, Chair, and how you want to move forward. Next steps.
So Gary, procedural-wise today, are we to select the members off this list today?
If you're willing, yes, today.
Okay. I know a couple commissioners want to talk about this. Commissioner Schrader, you were in the queue.
Yeah, when I look at this list, it is a mixture of community members and experts. The issue we have with the experts is we haven't put out an invite yet to them. And I guess the clarifying question I'll ask my colleagues is this. If the goal is to bring experts in and then bring the community in to listen to the experts, shouldn't we first be seeing which of these groups of experts that we should be inviting? Or does Commissioner West because you brought forward a lot of this, Commissioner West, is there people in particular on both of these sections of experts that you would recommend? Because we could probably get 7 experts and invite all these people to a larger conversation with a breakout session. I'm just thinking structurally how that might work. And then they could bring other community members to that. So is the focus really, like what we do at the National Association is bring together the experts, have everybody in the community in the room, ask the questions, do a breakout session, and then come back with potential solutions?
What I would recommend is that you select 5 to 7 people. We can have backups if those people aren't available.
Okay.
My recommendation also is that there be a meeting specifically with the board and the experts.
Okay.
And then we also have a day and a half meeting where we bring in the community members and experts, that even the folks that aren't on the panel, we want to make sure that they're invited to the meeting. And I will put together a whole agenda, and there'll be breakout sessions, and just as you suggest.
I mean, I would say immediately off the top of my head that first list, starting with, local insight, the local inside organ list, and then the experts, that to me, that's more the folks we'd be inviting to a full-day discussion with, after we meet with an expert. So are we going to be meeting with an expert panel individually as a board? Or are we doing this as a whole day and a half?
Both. I'm going to recommend both, Commissioner.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
So
what I
that
would
makes
recommend
sense
is
to
that
me.
when
I
these
have-
experts come in, that you have a conversation with just the board. I think that's important. And then
Okay.
you open it up, obviously, to the whole community and have those conversations. I think there are people, if I may, on this list that even, they're really critical to have in the room.
Right.
Whether you want them on the list of experts, that's up to you, but there's important to have local folks, business leaders, funders.
Right,
in
and
that
that's what I'm
conversation.
asking. Are they two different, are they the audience is what I'm asking? Who's our audience? Is our audience, Larry, Mayor McGriff, Amy Jo Cook, our chamber, all of that? Or is our audience with the, help me out here, Ben, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I thought,
But-
well, our audience is
I-
a community.
Right, so this is all community in my mind.
Well, they're also, they're,
Okay.
they are subject matter experts
In the community.
in the community.
Okay.
That's the difference. So we're going to
So-
open it up to, I think, a discussion.
Yeah, and I'm okay with whatever you guys decide. I'm just trying to figure out in my own head. I'm not going to be difficult, I mean, whatever you guys think. If it's a mixture of both of those groups, then that's fine too. But I just don't know the experts enough to know who would we suggest with that? I know the people here pretty well. So.
Well, I think we're all in that boat, pretty much.
Okay,
So we're
so-
going to offer this comments for other commissioners. Commissioner West, you're next.
I'm done.
Cindy, are you looking for recommendations also for faith-based nonprofit or faith-based groups?
If you decide they need to be on the panel.
Okay. So I have 2 recommendations if that's what we decide. Also, I have for Dr. Keith Humphreys, who's one of the leading, experts on psychiatry and behavioral health science out of Stanford University. I've also reached out to a backup potentially from who is a colleague of Dr. Keith Humphreys at Oregon Health Science University, who I believe is the chief director of that addictions department. I haven't checked my work email at OHSU to see if he's responded yet, but maybe that's a backup. I could provide that later. One point of order here is under business leaders, you guys have Rick Armstrong. He is a business leader out of southern Alberta, Canada. But he is not local, but he is somebody who has quite a powerful story about being in recovery. And so he works and establishes recovery-type centers in Canada, and is quite successful, and his recovery story and what his journey is quite powerful. It's a little different than like what Dan Fowler,
Right here.
under business leaders, just a point of clarification.
So he's outside of Oregon.
He's outside of Oregon. He's from southern Alberta, Canada, just over the border from Montana. Many of these people are not local. They are, but they are experts that are closely connected to the North America Recovers Group, and they are some leading thought leaders and policy people that I've been impressed with throughout North America. Tom Wolf is out of San Francisco, not local, but is heavily involved in trying to reform some of the stuff that you see coming out of San Francisco. That's where he comes from. Dr. Keith Humphreys out of Stanford. Sheldon Bailey works with the Canadian government and elected official within Canada, is also in recovery. Robbie Sidhu helped build the Fresh Start Recovery Center in Calgary, and so did Jennifer Kent Carpenter. I don't know if they'll be able to make it. Maybe Jennifer will. I don't know, but they're on the list. And one of the leading doctors out of Canada on this issue and psychiatrist is Dr. Tangray. So those are just, some of these are just a lot of these people, but that's what we wanted. We wanted people from somewhat outside the region to come to speak to us to help put a strategy forward, and then potentially as a board, we quarterly can check in with them, hopefully get a report that provides a master plan or strategic plan moving forward, speaking to addiction and mental health issues. I think, I mean, I like this list. I don't know if we need everybody on this list. There's a lot of helpful people in here. Kevin Dahlgren is local and is closely connected with a lot of these behavioral health experts and experts on homelessness. And he's independent now. That's kind of how I like to see it move, kind of go forward, is like we get a strategic master plan, we get an idea about how we move forward with it. What does a recovery center look like in Clackamas County? What does a recovery-oriented system care look like? What's recovery look like in Clackamas? And begin to kind of build that vision and framework in which we operate, specifically on these issues. And we're not reinventing the wheel, because a lot of these men and women on this list have already kind of done that in other places. So that's my thoughts. I'm willing to jump in any way we can, or at least the people that I've helped recommend, like, answer questions about them, or however we want to set this up, but.
Yeah. Commissioner Savas?
Yeah, well, just getting back to our initial, back at our first retreat this year, the concept was, as stated by both Commissioner Schrader and West, was to have some outside experts come in and inform us from their expertise in different areas and maybe different viewpoints as well, I imagine. Looking at the list here, there's about 10, 11 of those experts in behavioral health and homelessness altogether combined. My guess is that not all of them will be able to attend, so it'll probably be a much smaller group, and hopefully it'll be balanced, so we make sure we're not leaving behavioral health with no one at the table, and or the other. So there's balance there. So and getting back to Commissioner Schrader's original point, the structure, how this is done, I think opening it up with these experts that are outside Oregon, come in and speak and share their knowledge and their experiences, and then having a special list of guests, maybe the top part of the list, and ourselves be part of the exchange, dialogue back and forth to ask their questions and share their experiences as well. And then, of course, the audience out there will be watching, not participating. But I think that's a structure I kind of thought, but I don't know. So I think knowing the structure and also knowing that the list might just naturally, who's available is going to be much smaller in the period. I mean, it's unlikely that they're all going to say yes and be able to make it on the same day.
Yeah.
So, we could invite everybody on the list of outside Oregon for the Blue Ribbon panel, knowing that we'll probably end up with 5, 6, 7, 8. Cindy, your original. That would be easy decision today on that particular list.
Great, and we can add Rick Armstrong to that list
Yeah.
of outside Oregon.
And Kevin
Do you
Dunn.
want and Kevin's local, do you want the contact information for the doctor out of OHSU? He also testified with Dr. Humphreys in the state legislature last September on Measure 110. You can see that article on that testimony out of the OPB, wrote a nice article about that. But I've tried to connect with him. My last shift at OHSU, I tried to help make those connections.
Any contact information you have would be great.
Provide that to you?
Yes, that would be
Okay.
wonderful.
Anybody else I need to forward on that information, or who? Does anybody else, if I want to add, do I send that to you,
Send it to
Gary?
me or Cindy. Me
You
and Cindy, yes.
Okay.
Okay, now, getting back to Martha's thoughts about structure on this. So we're inviting these lists of outside Oregon, and then we added 2 to the Blue Ribbon panel.
They're here locally.
Just a minute, let me finish my thought.
Sorry.
The panel discussion for the 1.5 days involves the panel discussion with the Board of County Commissioners. Did I hear you right when you said the other local people would be invited to listen? No.
Well, both. I mean, you'll be meeting with them. I'm recommending that you meet with them. And then I recommend that the second part of the meeting is with these local folks and others that are invited.
So we have the first part of the meeting and the second part of the meeting,
Yes.
and it encompasses 1.5 days.
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
that works for me.
yes.
Okay, that works for me. Tell you, that's a lot of people in a room giving their ideas. So Commissioners, it's going to be very challenging for us, I'm going to say right now, to accept the experts whom we have invited in to listen and not assume that we know better than the experts, because isn't that the reason for that? So it's a listening session, is that we employ our 2 ears and not our 1 mouth, I'm assuming.
Chair, if I may, I think preparation is going to be really important. And so it would be really important for you to get me, for example, what are the questions you want? What are the issues you have? So that we can prepare the panelists that they are addressing the top-of-mind issues for you.
Right.
So I will be talking with the panelists, not just inviting them, but really talking with them about what the expectations are so that everybody has the same expectations when we come together.
Yeah, I would agree for that. And Commissioner West?
Point of clarification, Clackamas Fire Paramedic, I believe Amy Jo Cook has retired, I think she has, and now Neil
Retired, but she's
Clausen.
back on with them as well, so she's.
Okay.
Yes.
And I believe Neil Clausen is her new replacement out in the
Right.
field. Wonderful gentleman, a long history with the fire department. So one of the two, just point of clarification, I don't know who would be available.
Right.
It's my understanding that Amy's moving out of state in the near future also. So that would just, and I don't know if it would be helpful for me to help be a liaison between the Blue Ribbon Commission and the rest of the Board of County Commissioners as we field questions. If I can be more helpful in helping with this, I seem to have a pretty big influence already, but I wanted to, whatever helps manage this.
I would
Everybody's
like
busy.
you, I would like you to go through Cindy, if you're going to
Okay.
do that, and maybe another commissioner do that. Martha?
Yeah. I'd love
to do it,
Martha,
yeah.
you-
Have Martha and
I
I-
want you two to work together,
Great.
because I don't believe any one of us is an expert on this, and I'm going to reiterate again, and you're going to hear me say this a lot. We invited experts so we can learn. Just because we think we might have some wonderful spanking program over there that outshines everybody else, that is not the reason for this blue ribbon panel. It is so that we learn and we listen. And then we can take the information and use it or not, correct?
Correct.
I'm going to be saying that over and over and over,
Do we need a motion to appoint?
probably. Do we need a motion, Gary?
I just want to know that a majority of you agree with the purpose, the members, and the schedule.
I
Yeah.
do. And then do we need a motion to have Martha and I work with staff on this issue?
No, I think you guys can just do it.
We don't, okay.
I just want to clarify mid-September as the time that we're looking at for the meeting.
Yeah.
That works for me.
Yeah, I don't see how we can get it going any sooner.
Okay.
Really.
Yeah, that works for me.
September's a better time for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
After Labor Day.
We'll make it happen.
Thank you, Cindy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Gary, we need to be finished.
We have one item that has to go, and that's the Planning Commission appointments. If we could please do that item.
Yeah, I looked at those. I will accept a motion for the planning. Go ahead, Lisa.
Tony, read them. Go ahead.
Planning Commission recommendations. Through an application process, 5 applications were received. 2 were recommended for appointment. Recommendations are Tammy Stevens to a second term, Thomas Middaugh to a first term.
I'll accept a motion.
I move to approve the list as read.
Second.
Commissioner Scholl has moved to approve the 2 members to the Planning Commission for appointments, and Commissioner West to second that motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Tony, please take the poll.
Commissioner Scholl,
Aye.
Commissioner West,
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader,
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye, motion passes 4-0.
There's a letter that we can push till next week on
We'll
regional
push that till next
transportation,
week.
and then Commissioner
I'm going to
Communications.
recommend that we hold on our communications until we meet the next time. Thank you very much, Commissioners. We did a lot of important work today. Seeing no further business before this commission, we are adjourned.